all you beautiful people. I am talking about my story of my life and just going through every single part of my life as told by me. Everybody else talks about me, so why not me too? So here's my story of my life. It's as told by me. Disclaimer, y'all know this ain't the truth, but it's my story, so here we go. So, where was I with my story? Let's see. Okay, I was talking about how I had got a date from this guy that came into the shop and how it was really crazy because, like, I wouldn't have served him, but my boss was like, get these guys out of my shop. And I ended up selling them photos. So, and I ended up giving my phone number, and he calls, and my mom had just watched my daughters the night before so that I could go on a date with this one guy that was totally bunk, and I was cleaning up my apartment all day long, had plans to go meet my mom at the gay parade and gay pride parade and get pick up my daughters. And oh my goodness. So I tell him that, I have my daughters, and he's like, it's fine, you can bring them. I really don't like the idea. I had, like I had these rules set in place. Like I wouldn't let a guy meet my daughters until I was dating him at least 3 or 4 times, till things start to look real with him. And I didn't want to let them know where I lived. And I always brought money to pay for my half of the date. I never wanted a guy to feel like he had to pay for me. And yeah, I tried to be safe about everything. And so I decided to break my rule with this guy. And I said, I was like, okay, I will bring my daughters on this date. We can meet at Chili's and eat. And, I knew that he was going to pay for me, and I wasn't going to like order a whole lot or anything. But so I finished cleaning up my apartment, and I go pick up my daughters, and I go get ready for the date, and I'm nervous that my daughters are going to act bad, and I don't know why, but I am. I'm nervous that my daughters are going to act bad, and I really won't know how to handle it. So I decide, well, first of all, this is not a good thing. I do not condone this activity. Just because I say that I did something doesn't mean that it should be done. I decide, and I'd never done this before, but I know other mothers that have. And I'm not necessarily saying that you're bad if you do. I don't know. It's know what you're doing. I'm not saying parenting is hard, guys. Parenting is hard, okay? There's no right, there's no wrong, except for try to keep them healthy and safe and, raise them healthy emotion, physical. Okay, anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Anyway, I decided to give my babies Benadryl to hopefully calm them down, and I don't know why. I don't think that they necessarily needed it. And I'd never done this before again, and so some children are the opposite. Benadryl hypes them up. It turns out my kids are the opposite. Benadryl hypes them up. My kids are a lot like me in that I have so many allergies that allergy medicine makes me feel like so free, So I'm sure that's how they felt. And I didn't notice, I didn't give them a whole lot of children's Benadryl, just a tiny little bit. And you guys, we got to Chili's, and they were bouncing off the walls. I mean, it looked like I had given my kids crack, but oh my goodness. Yeah, it was crazy. And I was trying to talk to this guy, and I mean, I thought he was cute. And it's not working. And Chili's, I guess, happened to be something was going on, and the food wasn't coming out. And like, I took my daughter outside, and I took her to the bathroom, and I mean, it was just crazy. And I left him with my baby whenever I took my oldest daughter, because she was just so bouncing off the walls crazy, and and my baby was just like, hey, she was so cute. But oh my goodness, I didn't know what to do. And I finally, I came back, and I was like, I've got to go. I can't do this. And so the waiter comes over and talks to us, and he's like, y'all can get your stuff to go. We can give it to you to go. And he's like, do you want to do that? Get it to go. And I was like, okay. And so I decided I wasn't quite sure where to go, because I mean, I'm kind of new to this area, and he is too. He just knows, he's in the army, so he just knows the army post. And you know. And so I was like, let's go to my apartment complex. There's a playground there, and we can eat while I let my kid play. And he's like, great idea. So breaking another rule. So I broke rule 1, I broke rule 2. So yeah, I broke the rule about knowing my kids right away, and then I broke the rule about knowing where I live right away. So, but I was like, I'm not gonna break every single rule here. So I just stayed at the playground. He knew which apartment complex I lived at, but he did not know which one. So I did make sure of that. And yeah, we were outside, and he opens up his thing to eat. And like, I got a little bit extra. I got a little appetizer and stuff so that I could feed my kid. And he opens his plate, and my toddler immediately just grabs it, a big chunk of his burrito. Oh my goodness, it was so embarrassing. Yeah, just worst date ever. Yeah, worst date ever. So I was just like, this guy is just never gonna call me back. And I was just like writing it off and just ready, so over it, just so over it. So he was really nice and kind. He really was. And I gave him a hug, and I was like, thank you so much. And he left. And then he called me. He called me a couple days later, and he said, that was the worst day of my life. And I was like, well, it's kind of mine too. But, I'm sorry, and I know it was kind of crazy. And he said, well, I don't think that you had time to plan it out. Let's go ahead, and would you mind giving me a redo? And can I take you out next week? That way you have time to get everything together. And I was like, well, okay, yeah, a redo. Okay, yeah. So I'll talk to my mom, and I'll get a babysitter, and we can do a redo date. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'd like to take you to a movie this time. How's that sound? And I was like, okay. And he's like, so go ahead and look at the movies and see which one you want to watch, and I will pick you up next week at 7 o'clock. And I was like, okay, bet. So I got my mom as babysitter, and I had him pick me up at my mom's house this time. Or, at my mom's place, which was, I mean, in her neighborhood, And I was thinking, I'm not going to try to go all out for this guy. I'm not going to try to look my best, but I'm not going to try to look my worst either. I'm just going to try to look well put together, just me. And so that's where my head was at. And yeah, we went out to see a movie, and I wanted to see the new Transformers movie, because I've always been the type of person that if I'm going to go to the theater, I want to see an action film. I want to see something happening, like I grew up in the era of Titanic being the love film, and Twister being a love film. So it's like these action films are also love films that I saw in the theater. So I really like this high action in the theater. And my brother, he loved watching Transformers. I watched the girl shows, he would watch the boy shows, and we would watch them together, really. So really, I don't think there is any boy-girl show anyway, but um, so I wanted to see Transformers, and he was like, "We could watch a romantic movie. That's fine." I was like, "No, I want to see Transformers," and he's like, "Okay, okay." And he was like, "Well, I got a confession. I've already seen it," and I was like, "Well, do you mind watching it again? Because I really want to see it." And he's like, "No, it's a good movie. I don't mind watching." And I was like, "Cool." So let's watch Transformers, and so we go in and we're watching Transformers. We're at the movie, and we have, he got me popcorn, he got me a soda and everything, and he like whispers in my ear, "Can I hold your hand?" And it was so sweet, you guys. It was so sweet. It like melted my heart. And I was like, yeah. And so we like held hands. I mean, it was like so cute. It was so cute. I was just so enamored. And after the movie, we went and we walked around Target and we talked, and then we drove around the city and just looked at the nightlife and everything. And I asked him, though. I asked him about his occupation, being a soldier. I really didn't like that. I didn't want to be married to a soldier. And I let him know that I'm looking for a husband. I did tell him that I'm crazy, and you just don't know how crazy I am yet, but I am crazy, so let's get that out of the way. But he said that he's a medic, and not only is he a medic, he's a combat medic. And my mother, I blamed a lot of why she was toxic on the fact that my grandfather was a combat medic in the Vietnam War. So it's like I blamed the war, but I was like, if it wasn't for him having that job, though. And now here I am with a combat medic in the war of my day and age. And I was just like, this isn't going to work. I mean, I really like you a lot and I appreciate this, but this is not going to work. He's like, He's like, and I'm like, I'm a hippie. I go to drum circles. I go to Unitarian church. I'm a Unitarian. And I'm looking for a father. I'm looking for a husband. You're looking for a good time. Thanks for trying. This isn't going to work. And he's just like, And I was just like, okay, take me home. And he's like, okay. And so he takes me home, and he walks me all the way upstairs to my mother's, and he's like, you don't get away without a kiss. And he kissed me. Y'all, this was the best, softest, fireworks going off. Like my knees go weak. Like the best kiss in my whole life. Like it took the breath out of me. It was so spectacular. Like, wow, like amazing. It was crazy. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't handle it. I was like melting right then and there in his hands, and I grabbed the door and I just like threw myself in the door and was like catching my breath against the door. And I look at my mom and she's holding my baby, and she's tears rolling down her face, shaking her head no. And my baby's lips are blue, and she's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I was like, call 911 now. Oh my God. It was crazy. It was a whirlwind of emotions. We got the ambulance there. We got my baby girl in the ambulance in an oxygen tent. She was alive. We got her to the hospital, and she was put into an oxygen tent with me. Just both of us in there. We're just holding her. It was scary. It was crazy. So, that's my story so far, guys. Thank you for listening. It's a fun story, isn't it? It was my life. Well, at least the story of my life. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. And as always, God bless you with love. That's all she got.